Welcome to Unsung Heroes Live. Life's biggest questions are answered through intimate conversations with people just like you who've risen above life's challenges and desire to share their knowledge to help others. I am your host, Christy Knights. Thank you so much for joining us today on Unsung Heroes Live podcast. We have an incredible guest, Diaz, and let me just share with you a little bit about Dawn before we get started with our chat. Dawn is an inspiring speaker and coach who merges professional strategies, spiritual principles, and urban flair. She is the founder of the nonprofit organization Milagros Day Worldwide, providing leadership training for survivors of domestic violence, and is the CEO of the Rescue Coaching Institute. During her career as a paramedic captain in the New York City Fire Department, she led the vital responsibility of bringing order and calm to the countless situations of tragedy and chaos, including the recovery efforts of September 11th, 2001, which led her to create an online community called Post-Traumatic Growth. As a multiple award-winning community advocate, Diaz has been a special guest on Fox News, CNN, NBC, Telemundo, and Univision, and her story has been archived in the National Library of Congress. My goodness, Dawn, welcome. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you, Christy. It's an honor to be here with you.
How did I do with all the pronunciation?
Great. Yes. There were two Spanish words. You did great with them.
Good. I didn't know if I was going to twirl my tongue or not, but I refrained because sometimes it's easy to do that, right? It's fun.
Yes.
So Dawn, share with us a little bit after that introduction. Let's fill in the gaps. Share a little piece of your life story and what led you to feel so passionate about domestic violence and being able to help the survivors.
Yes. So I grew up in a household that was very unstable and very violent. My mom had remarried an alcoholic, and he was very abusive with her verbally, physically, and also very emotionally and verbally, and physically abusive with myself and my younger brother. And so my mom, there's a spectrum in domestic violence, and my mom actually experienced the worst severe end of the spectrum, where she had broken nose, black eyes, missing teeth, like on a regular basis. So, that was the home that I grew up in. And it was partially in Puerto Rico. So my safety zone was actually in the streets. It was walking in the streets of San Juan. And, so after my mom, when I was 14 years old, my mom finally left the abusive relationship. I happened to go on vacation to New York City. And during that time, in the month that I was gone, my mom was killed in a car accident. Oh. So, so she had 6 months of freedom, 6 months of trying to figure out her own identity after leaving this abusive situation that she lived in for over 10 years. And so as I grew up, I knew that there was something that I wanted to do to make a difference for domestic violence survivors. And I was able to create this organization named Milagros, which was my mom's name.
Ah, that gave me chills when you said it. Wow, what an incredible journey. Can you speak to, for a moment, you said, that there is a continuum or a spectrum of domestic violence, and she was at the other end. Can you share what that means to our community?
Yeah, well, so domestic violence is something that affects all communities, all types of educational status, financial status. And I actually noticed that women who are educated and are well-to-do are actually much more vulnerable because they feel like they have so much more to lose if they leave the situation or if they speak out. And so the spectrum, it goes from physical, that's the worst end of the spectrum, all the way down to very nuanced and very, cryptic type of strategy to control your mind and make you think that you're crazy. There is financial abuse, there's sexual abuse, there is emotional abuse. All of those play a very, very damaging part in a woman's life and in the children who are witnessing that situation.
Okay, thank you. I think that is so helpful. I think oftentimes, as a psychotherapist, so many times clients are entrenched in the abuse, they're not able to see what's even happening until it escalates to the physical violence. And then it's still very difficult to leave. So I think it's important, for our listeners to hear that, yeah, there's a full spectrum, and it can start with, there are red flags very early on that you really validate that this person is not crazy, that they are experiencing a level of abuse.
Yes. Yes. Well, that happened to me personally after watching my mom be physically abused and then growing up to be a young lady to getting involved in relationships myself. I ended up in a marriage that I was never physically abused. So I never even thought, like it never even dawned on me that I was in an abusive relationship, because what my idea of abuse was that physical. So I had to really educate myself and thankfully was able to get myself out of that situation.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. So someone even as educated as you are about that process and what you've been through still had a hard time. So let's take you back just a little further, going through such a difficult place and through that through your childhood, how did you come out of that? How did you come to the other side of that?
So my mom, as I said, passed away when I was 14 years old. And so I was left to my own devices to try to, figure out who I was and begin to start a new life back in New York City in the 80s. And I was very self-destructive. Instead of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, it was sex, drugs, and hip hop for me in New York City in the 80s, right? And then I had a child at 21, which actually gave me some grounding and it gave me responsibility. I had my uncle, my mom's brother, who was a phenomenal father figure and role model. And so I followed his footsteps as a paramedic in the New York City Fire Department.
Yeah.
And then throughout that time, my life actually took three paths, concurrent paths. So the one path was my career in the fire department, which I had excelled very, very quickly. And, I was a woman in a male-dominated field. I was respected. I was appreciated. I had influence. And then my another track of my life was my marriage, in which I was being verbally and emotionally abused and didn't know it. And then the third track of my life was my seeking of healing, my seeking of answers, right? My seeking of what's wrong with me and how can I fix it, right? So that journey took on many different forms. One of those forms was therapy. I was in therapy for 10 years. And for me, that was the foundation that laid, and actually gave me a lot of knowledge. And from there, I began educating myself, and I actually experienced and learned all types of modalities. I have 25 years of research experience in modalities, with 12-step programs, with, meditation, with all different types of religions, with, therapy, and also personal development. And for me, all of those things led me to really what was my turning point, which was coaching. When I felt as at my rock bottom, and I was thinking of going into a mental hospital because I felt like I was crazy. I had one last, you know, thing to try, which was coaching. And I worked with my coach, who's Karen Hoyos. And actually, that was actually the turning point that got me to see my purpose. And, and from there, I created my nonprofit organization. I became a coach myself. And, I'm loving life.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that emotional journey that you went through and the struggles. Was there some level of anxiety, any depression there? Did you wrestle with the stigma of that? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so, I never had the labels of any type of, mental illness, but like looking back, I've definitely experienced every one of those levels, right? Depression, anxiety, and just, and even going back further in my childhood, disassociation, which I know it's dissociation. Some people say disassociation, but that actually was the defense mechanism that saved my sanity. My brother that is after me, he actually was not as lucky, and he actually did, develop some type of pretty, I'd say severe form of autism, because of that, and so the dissociation actually was really my saving grace. And what happens with defense mechanisms is that they work for you and they actually save you when you need them, but then what happens is you outgrow them, and if you continue to lean on them, they actually backfire, right? They actually, become become a hindrance. And so that's something that I had to grow out of also.
I think you just said so much very powerfully. Talking about dissociation, you're absolutely right. It's a defense mechanism. But, for you, in what ways did it save you? Can you talk to us about that and define it for us from your perspective?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, from my perspective, like I won't give you the clinical definition, but from my perspective, disassociation is leaving your body, right? And seeing yourself from the outside and not associating what's happening to you. Right. And that is actually so vital because, now that I work with women that have been abused and just people that have men and women who have lived through childhood trauma, one of the important key points is disassociating that story from your identity, from who you are. Right. And so and literally that's what it is. It's a story. It was just an experience, right? So disassociation really, saved my sanity and my identity in that way.
Yeah, oftentimes I'll describe that as it feels as if you're looking in from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
So you're more of an observer, which keeps you protected from the actual experience that you're going through.
Yeah, totally. Yes, the pain, the trauma, just the terror, right? Like it completely shields you. Like you just like it's not happening to you, right? Yeah. And so, but also what happens is you those things are hidden, and if they're not processed, they're still causing you damage.
Yes.
So that was something that I needed to go through in my healing process.
Yes, and being able to reintegrate into your identity.
Yeah.
So that personal growth and development, can you talk to us about that reintegration into your identity? Being able to disassociate from the story because it was just an experience and who you became.
Yeah, so turning abuse into success is the tagline of my organization, Milagros de Worldwide. And rescue coaching is my company that, where I can coach people one-on-one and where I can, create all different types of workshops for groups. in order for people to shift out of that victim mentality, out of that, victim paradigm. And so, yeah, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
No, that's okay. Just talking about that reintegration into identity.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
and it really did a nice segue to your business and your tagline.
Well, turning abuse into success was, how that came up, because reintegrating, like, who you really are, being able to see you for you, right? Being able to not have to, bend yourself into a pretzel to fit into a relationship, into a job, into a family, into a community, just owning the space that you're walking on.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I love the analogy that you used of twisting yourself into a pretzel to fit into a relationship. I think that that's really, very powerful. And oftentimes we see people doing that whenever disassociation has not been, instead of it being a defense mechanism, now it's a dysfunctional coping mechanism because we're stepping out every time instead of being a part of, right? And
Yeah.
that oftentimes, part of anxiety and depression. So Dawn, as you were building your nonprofit and watching other women, how did you feel being a part of their experience?
Well, that's a great question, Christy, because I feel, and maybe because I'm a kinesthetic learner, that the way to really, really heal is to help others heal. Right. And so, and also I feel that as leaders, we're all just one step ahead or a couple of steps ahead of somebody or a couple of steps behind someone, so it's like we don't all have the answers. We don't like arrive at this pinnacle. It's always that we're on this journey. So for me to be able to help and actually see the transformation of other women, to be able to step into their own identity and to really see who they are and honor who they are, the more that I saw that, the more I saw those bright faces, those light bulbs, those popcorns, popping, the more confidence I got, the more healing I got, the more, power I got, right? And so I didn't create this empire on my own, and this is why I have such a powerful, wonderful, amazing community of women who are leaders and who own their space and own the organizations and just the space that we've created.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you were to write a thank you letter to someone, who would it be?
Wow. There's so many, Christy. There's really so many because, my mom died when I was 14 years old. And God, my higher power, source, my, the creator, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. My mom's spirit has been with me ever since, and she's put amazing people in my path to to protect me, to encourage me, to help me, to nurture me, to love me, so I mean, just family members, friends, my friends moms. Like, I have so many moms who were my friends' moms. So, like, I'm Puerto Rican ethnically, but I have a Colombian mom, an Italian mom, a Dominican mom, a Black mom, a Jamaican mom. Like, I have moms from all my friends. I have chills right now. Like,
Yes.
wow. Like, it's really moving me to be able to say that. Wow. And then, mentors, like so many mentors, like Karen Hoyos, like I said, Shelly Hipsky, like, oh my God, she's our head HBIC, right?
Right.
For the global sisterhood,
Absolutely.
and just peers and friends, and even, and my own students who
Oh,
have taught me so much, and who show me every day that my mission is powerful and that it actually works.
yes. How often do you sit in the space of a student and you watch them grow and rebirth, and you have chills as you watch them. And when they leave, you think, wow, I cannot believe how much I learned today from them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the biggest gift. Yeah.
Oftentimes they think they're just coming to learn from us, as coaches, as experts in our professions, yet we get so much from them, right?
Yeah.
We get so
Mhm.
much. So share with us the type of services that you offer that our listeners could be a part of if they're struggling.
Well, so we have on the nonprofit end, we have Milagros Day Worldwide, which is the nonprofit organization that empowers survivors of abuse through leadership and coaching. And then so you can go to milagrosday.org, milagrosday.org. That's actually going to take you to our Facebook page, because our website is being recreated, but that Facebook page is going to show you everything that's happening at the moment and how to join us. Then we have, you can go to my website, dawndiaz.com, which is my name, DAWNDIAZ.com, and see all of the different types of programs that I offer. And then you can also go to my Facebook group called Post-Traumatic Growth. Post-Traumatic Growth is a community that I created after I left the fire department. And so it integrates, right? Going back to integration, because that's what it's all about. It's bringing all the parts of our experience together, and it integrates my experience with post-traumatic stress due to September 11, due to just working as a paramedic in New York City, and then also the experience of the domestic violence community, and really the experience of today, the experience of watching the news today, right? How that is traumatic, right? How that is toxic. And so it's really a space in a community for healing and for shifting that victim paradigm of all of these attacks that come to us. How can we filter them, and how can we shift the impact that they're going to have on us, right? So post-traumatic growth is actually a term that came up, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 years ago, that really, it was a study that showed that a lot of people, not only do they have damage from trauma, but they also can flourish, and they also can completely shift and go into a better direction.
Yes, yes. So that is wonderful. Thank you. I want to make sure that everybody has that information, and I will also post that information. Share with us, Dawn, how you were able to shift that paradigm of victim for yourself.
Well, through coaching, definitely, working with Karen Hoyos. It was one key question that she asked me, right? That said, what's your purpose? And at the time, being successful, being, having respect and authority in a male-dominated field, having a great career, having 3 beautiful children, being financially secure and all of that, I still, felt like a fraud, right? Because in my relationship, I was constantly being told that I was stupid, that I didn't, that I would never make it without him, and all these things. And that was reinforcing. See, what happens is the things that we're told, we'll only believe what someone tells us if we already believe that about ourselves, right? So that just reinforced everything that I believed from the damage that I had experienced as a child. And so, when she said to me, what's your purpose? I was completely at a loss. Like, what do you mean purpose? And she says to me, well, if there was a community, if there was a group that you could make a difference for, what would it be? And immediately I said, I would help women that live through domestic violence. And she said, all right, you got 90 days to make it happen. And in 90 days,
Yeah.
Milagros Day Worldwide was created. And that was in 2009. So we are, now 8 years old, and 2019 is our 10th anniversary. And, we have a lot of amazing, big plans for 2019. So 2018, we're kind of just like in infrastructure rebuilding, and 2019 is going to be huge, our 10th year anniversary.
Yeah.
So so that was really what helped me shift out of the victim paradigm. And then it just continued to snowball from there, because once the biggest thing is,
Yes.
you got to distract yourself from your poor me. You
Mhm.
really have to distract yourself, because you can suck yourself into an abyss
Yes.
of feeling sorry for yourself, of being depressed, of just completely thinking that your life sucks. And all you have to do is see the impact that your presence can make on someone else.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it just begins to snowball into joy.
Yes, yes. So through discovering your purpose, you were able to move into the paradigm of healing,
Mm-hmm.
where then giving back gave that fulfillment
Mm-hmm.
and gave you that identity. So, how do you teach purpose to women who feel like they have none?
Mm. Well, so we have it's really about tapping into your own gifts, your own talents, your own passion,
Mhm.
right? And knowing that you're worthy, because once you give yourself permission to experience and be worthy of of doing what you love, all of a sudden you're gonna see how that flourishes, right? And so in the community in Milagros de Worldwide, it's a great forum for our graduates to take on all different types of responsibilities, and the community has grown through graduates. So all of the roles that are performed in the organization are all performed by the graduates.
Wow. What a blessing that is to be able to come full circle in your healing to then give back. Oftentimes I'll say to clients that I work with that I know that you have arrived in your therapeutic process when you come to me and you tell me you're teaching other people the skills you have learned and used successfully. When I
Yes.
hear that, I know that you are really making great progress in healing. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So talk to me about, authenticity, Dawn. That is one thing that I absolutely love about you. There are very few people that I think we can say are truly authentic and real and not afraid to be in that space. And Dawn, you're willing to jump into the trenches and just be real. That's what struck me about you when I first met you. So talk to me about how you grew to be authentic and how you then teach that.
Thank you so much, Christy. That's so beautiful. And it's actually, I'm like completely on the other end of the spectrum, like, being ashamed of who I am, and now like just loving everything about myself, and obviously it's not like a 24-hour thing. It's not like Beyonce, I woke up like this. You got to work at it. You have to constantly reinforce that. But I love that you talk about like me being authentic, because I don't know if you noticed, but like my grays are starting to come out, and I'm letting them grow.
Yes,
And
yay.
you know
Embrace it.
I'm letting them grow. And yeah. And just I love that, like being in Puerto Rico, working with the hurricane survivors. I was in my combat boots every day, and you've seen me on the red carpet with my high heels and my gowns and everything else, and I can go from high heels and gowns to combat boots and walkie talkies, and every part of me I love. I really actually missed doing that, because that was my rescue roots,
Sure.
working on the ambulance. So it was really great for me to do that. Being authentic, just the thing is, you know, when you wake up, it's really just you and you. Like, there's no one else that can validate who you are, So,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
So it's learning to fall in love with yourself again, learning to embrace the life tragedies as life lessons is what I'm hearing you say, and just truly setting that intention. You can't allow it doesn't just happen. You just don't wake up this way. You were very intentional in your growth and your healing because you knew there was more out there, right? And you did that through finding your purpose.
Yeah. It's so awesome because for the last, at least, 6 months or so, I have not been actively networking or producing or promoting or anything. And it's just, like when you reached out to me, I've gotten so many like people contacting me, asking me to speak, asking me to share, asking me to this. And that in itself was so, like, I was so grateful to see the seeds like that you plant, when you invest in yourself, that they'll continue to give you that return on investment, even while you're just being.
Yes.
Like, at a point, there's a point where you can stop doing and you can just start being,
Yes.
and those returns will still keep coming to you. And that's something I'm really enjoying right now, which is precious.
Oh, absolutely. That is wonderful. Oftentimes people do not see the background. They don't see the journey. They just see the destination and they assume it was just luck or we just got there. But, they don't see that journey of how difficult it was. And that's what's so important about our talk today is just so that people understand that no matter where they are in life, that there are ways to get through it, to work through it, to come out to the other side being authentic and loving yourself and giving back. And you're such a prime example of that, coming from a place of such, devastation within a family to, something we haven't talked much about yet, Dawn, is the loss of your mom at 14. So many people would hear that and think, okay, like now what happened? Like, how did you surmount that? The loss of a mom. So talk to us a little bit about that grieving process and how that is part of who you are today in your journey.
Well, I'll tell you, that was where, when I mentioned earlier that a defense mechanism serves you, and then when you continue to fall back on it, it actually hinders you. Well, that was a big part because I did not grieve. I did not process. I did not grieve my mom's death for about 15 years.
Wow.
So my mom died when I was 14, and I remember at 28 being in a workshop and having an experiential exercise, role playing, where the entire group recreated a funeral for my mom.
Oh my gosh, I got chills. Wow.
And because when my mom died in Puerto Rico, I was in New York, and I was not brought back, and her funeral happened over there. So I never even attended the funeral, so somewhere, there was just so much like resistance and just no processing whatsoever, on a conscious level.
Yes.
And on an unconscious level, I was, it was eating me alive, right? And it was completely, debilitating me. And so, I had to grieve. I had to actually go through that. And, just begin a relationship with my mom at that age. Like, okay, she's physically gone, but now how do I keep her in my life, right? And so, with the organization, Milagros Day Worldwide, that's her legacy.
Yeah.
And, you know, her life and her death was not in vain. Because she lives on. Her life, her memory, her legacy lives on in the women that I've taught and worked with and been able to transform their lives, and way beyond my existence, right? That's the dream, that's the vision, you know. And for me to go away for 6 months and work in Puerto Rico for hurricane relief, and have the women of Milagros Day Worldwide continue to run the organization and just completely blow me away with their initiatives and their projects and their, you know, contacts and events that they did on their own. That is the dream, that is the vision, that's the legacy. So that, you know, my mom is physically gone and her legacy continues, and when I'm physically gone, her legacy will still continue.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. So let's tie in the two points that really kind of jumped out at me. You talked about planting seeds and you talked about legacy. So when we're talking to our listeners, what are some ways that they can begin to plant seeds to create their legacy that allows them to heal?
Wow. So, you know, I always say it's not easy. It's not going to be easy, but it sure as heck is worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping the language clean right now.
Right. That's why I said amen.
You know, yeah, because, you know, I mean, I've been approached by a lot of people that want what I have, right? Want the healing that I have, want the you know, the position that I have, want the peace and joy that I have, right? Want, you know, the success and the acclaim that I have. That was, you know, 20, 30 years, like the first 25 years was just me seeking and healing myself. Yeah. And then the next 10 years was me investing in myself and investing in this company and investing in this organization and so like, you know, and it, you know, when you say that, like, oh my God, 10, 20 years, you know, sounds overwhelming and it sounds daunting and it sounds like, okay, that's too much, I can't do it. But you know what? You know, 10 years ago, you may have had a dream that you never made any, you know, strides towards. And here you are still in the same place. So just start, right? Yeah, just invest in yourself, start right where you are. Yes. And be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for where you are. Be grateful for the, you know, and even if you can't, because I remember when I was in a place of despair, I had mentors who told me, oh, write a gratitude list. And I would say, I know all of the things that I should be grateful for. I can write a list of 1,000 things that I should be grateful for, but I didn't feel it, right? So just walk the walk, and then you will feel it. It will come to you, right? So that's planting the seeds, right? Yes. Planting the seeds. And then your legacy is pulling somebody up, right? The person that's 2 steps behind you, right? And there's a saying that I always use with the people that I teach, that God does not choose the qualified, he qualifies the chosen. Right? So if you have this vision, if you have this purpose, if you have this passion, if you have this calling, don't worry if you don't have the education or the money, or you're too old, or you're too overweight, or you're too, you know, a different race than whoever has normally done it. So what? You know, just start, right? And then just they'll see other people that want to be there and bring them along with you. The little bit that you know, teach somebody else. Absolutely. And that is the legacy that begins to take on a life of its own.
I love it. Yeah, it is just bit by bit by bit. It isn't major steps at one time because we can't do it. But my tagline is be real, be raw, just be. So teaching people that authenticity often lends them to naturally want to give back. And then the legacy follows. So I love what you're saying. So as we wrap up, Dawn, is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners about what you do, or any other information that maybe we have missed? And then once you share that, say again how to get a hold of you, because I want to make sure we have it in the middle of our podcast and at the end so everybody gets it.
Yes. Okay. So post-traumatic growth on Facebook, milagrosday.org, and dawndiaz.com. and you could really, the best way to see who I am and what I'm doing, and if I am someone that you feel you want to learn from and you want to work with, is just follow me on my Facebook, Dawn Diaz as well. Yes. Yeah, and just what I do, I'm turning abuse into success. I'm shifting the victim paradigm. I'm encouraging you to express the greatest version of yourself.
Yes. Yes. Well, Dawn, thank you so much for being here today. You are truly a blessing. You're a blessing to me and to our listeners, to those who come into contact with you, Dawn. I just love who you are. I love your authenticity. And I know that your legacy is going to live on. And I want to thank you for your time here today and what you've given to our listeners. And I hope that we can perhaps piggyback on this in the future. There are a lot of different areas that I think that would be really useful to talk about, and flesh out even further. So thank you, Dawn, so much for your time.
Thank you, Christy. Congratulations on this new movement you're creating. You're just making a huge impact on everyone that comes in contact with you. So thank you, and blessings to you.
Thank you so much too, Dawn. You're a hero.
You too. Bye.
Thank you for joining this episode of Unsung Heroes Live. Each week, we highlight a hero that has created a life of joy and peace despite the challenges. Through their transparency, life's biggest questions are answered. For additional resources and community support, go to www.christyknights.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Christy Knights. Be real, be raw, just be the hero that you are.